You're not saying anything.
Oh, you want me to talk through the music?
We literally just mentioned how Lyndon always talks through the music, and that he's like, "Yeah, I'll just talk through the music," and then the music starts. To be fair, he can't hear. He doesn't have headphones, so he can't hear that. What I'm hearing, which is the music. Hi, welcome to Mission Stories. We're off to a great start. My name's Troy, and as always, my junior companion, my co-host, my good friend Lyndon over here. He's here with me. Hello, Lyndon.
Welcome back, listeners.
Welcome back, listeners. We episode 3.
Should we come up with a name for our listeners?
Yeah. Oh, we definitely should.
Like the Wolf Pack, but something better than that.
Okay. Well. Okay.
Send us those emails.
Yeah. Send an email.
Names for our devout listeners.
We could call them the Devout.
Not a bad idea.
The Devout. Yeah. The true and faithful.
Also that.
Those who
the
will
hardy
be called,
pioneers.
Those who will be lifted up at the last day, a.k.a. our listeners. I remember this episode 50% more blasphemy than our previous 2. Just a quick heads up. Speaking of emails, we got an email.
We got it. We had haters. We had people say, no one's going to send you guys an email.
Yeah.
Like, this is 2018. No one uses email.
They're like, only dads use email.
False.
Idiot.
People email.
Yeah. And we got one email. And I guess, you know what? We should read it. His name is Tim. Hi, Tim. Thanks for emailing. Appreciate you, man. That was such a nice little treat. This is what he says. Troy and Lyndon. Love the podcast, my friends. I'm impressed to see you both followed through on your goal to launch a podcast.
Like we're known for not following through on things we say.
Like he thought we weren't going to do it.
He was right.
He was right. This is a miracle. We've made it this far. We even played with the idea of this just being a trilogy of podcast episodes and then quitting. But no, we can't quit because we have so much to talk about, including some of the ideas that he mentioned, which are. These are a few of his ideas. Elder sister romances on the Mish. Oh my goodness. He's like hitting the...
He's right to the heavy material.
Right at the beginning. Why you left on a mission versus why you stayed on a mission. That is a good question. Hindsight. I shouldn't have done this. In quotes. Not sure what... No, actually, I have a lot of those. So
you're like, I have no idea what that could mean.
What does he mean? What do you mean shouldn't have? Anyway, so we got a lot of those. The district training videos. Yeah, okay, so that's good. I think that's on our list. Meals made or eaten. That's all for now. More in the future, potentially. Thanks, Tim. So, thanks, Tim. We appreciate the feedback, and as always, for anyone who also has feedback, you can email us at themissionsstoriespodcast@gmail.com. And we will read your email, and we will thank you. And
you can also slide into the DMs on Instagram.
That's right. You could slide into our DMs, and you will become one of our very true, very faithful member listeners. And for that, you receive no benefit on Earth, but in the afterlife, you will receive a Mission Stories podcast t-shirt. So look forward to that. As I said, 50% more blasphemy. Lyndon, let's talk about some feedback from our just previous episode.
The topical topics.
Topical topics, yeah. You had some feedback from that. Last time we talked about what exactly?
Well, we discussed spirit animals and cultural appropriation.
Mm-hmm.
And I had two listeners, one being my sister, who is what I would call an esoteric observer.
What does esoteric mean for the casual listener?
Like an outsider,
And
basically.
me. Oh, okay.
So she kind of participates in Native American culture in a sense, in that she is employed for them.
Cool.
And so while she is not a part of that group, she works and observes and knows about it.
Yeah.
And so she had a lot to say on the matter. Where her thing was, where she's just like, it's okay to use spirit animals. Her point is the tribe and the nation that she works with out here in Western Canada doesn't have spirit animals.
Okay.
So they absolutely would not care if, non-natives talk about, oh, this is my spirit animal.
Right.
Because it would not be appropriating their culture.
But, okay, so that's specific to the locals here.
Yeah, specific to the locals. And then she said, maybe it is like tribes out in the East.
Right.
And she's like, she listed off like a lot of things. And she's just like lateral violence, alcoholism, the fact that treaties aren't being upheld. So she's like, if the fact that people are talking about spirit animals, and that's your problem,
That's the issue.
then you have a very charmed life.
Oh, my goodness. That's a good point.
Where it's like they have much bigger issues to deal with.
Right. Yeah, it is almost like it becomes like just a thing that maybe we should name the name. I didn't finish the name. We'll bleep it out. The bookstore in question that, took down the pillows that said, "This is my spirit animal." It's probably just like a tactic that they use in order to keep everybody happy, to keep the share prices up. Do you know what I mean? Because it's like,
well, it's just they get one complaint and that's good enough for them.
Sure, yeah. Because it's like, well, obviously it's not worth it. It's more goodwill to actually be accommodating. All right, so there was another thing.
Oh, there was another thing.
Someone else had something to say about that.
Someone else also said, language and culture is mutable. So if we now decide that spirit animals means anything we relate to, then it should. And I was like, well, that is kind of heavy-handed and disregards
the whole point.
So I was like, I'm not saying that you can't change the meaning of spirit animals. The question was, is it a good idea?
Right.
Is it fair?
Interesting. I have nothing to say about this any further than we've talked about. But that's interesting feedback. If you have more feedback about that, give us an email, or you can text Lyndon directly. You probably have his phone number. Or again, slide into our DMs. Here's another point that was brought up from a few people, a few listeners who are not members of the church and who are not, in on all of the jargon that we use. I realize, we never
esoteric listeners.
Esoteric listeners, good word. Word of the day, esoteric. All the phrases all the acronyms, MTC. I don't even know if we ever said what the MTC was.
I have no idea what it stands for.
You still don't.
I just know. I know it's where missionaries go to be trained.
Yeah. And it's a center. It's the Missionary Training Center, for those who don't know. Was there anything else? So we'll try to be a little more cognizant of actually saying what we mean, or defining what we
Some people think we took a really hard stance on candles.
We take hard stances on this show. We really do. I think I stand by what I said. Candles.
I had one person say, if I didn't have scented candles, my companion's terrible smelling feet would have overpowered the apartment. And I said, scented candles with no images.
No images can be on them. No.
That's borderline.
Yeah.
But even then,
that's devil.
It's like he's trying to expel the demons from his companion's feet, and that is not doctrine.
That is not doctrine. Wasn't there something about washing the feet off, dusting the feet off your?
Yeah, cursing people.
Cursing people.
Missionaries have the ability to curse people and entire communities.
Do we, though?
If done right.
Did they?
If done right and in context.
I remember we would often say that. We said it every single door that we knocked on, and they had no interest in listening. That's the first thing we would say afterwards. It would be doof, doof, doof. And we'd be like, hi, we're missionaries from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, blah, blah, blah. Do you want to hear the message? And they're like, now! And poof, shut the door. And then the very next thing was, let's dust our feet off. Make sure they're town never gets water again or something.
Mm.
Every door. The joke got old after like 10 doors.
Right. We saved the joke. I mean, everyone loved us in Arizona, so there wasn't much. That's not true. My one companion got pelted in the calf with a grapefruit. He was
a grapefruit?
Like a drive-by grapefruit throwing. Many people don't know this about Arizona, but it has a very rich citrus growing season.
Oh.
And there's just like too many grapefruit.
Yeah.
Come January, there's more grapefruit than anyone cares to eat.
Truly.
So they just drive around whipping it at missionaries.
The gangs have resorted to using them as drive-by tools.
But I digress.
For death, for killing, and for hitting calves.
We would save the dusting of the feet joke for rare occasions. But,
as it should be.
But my trainer once was so furious, he obviously I wasn't around for this, but he whipped out Doctrine and Covenants, and he got it. He read it word for word, everything he had to do, and he went about the whole ordinance in dead seriousness. And then, because then this is part of his training regimen. He's just like, was I correct in doing this?
Wait, he trained you?
Well, he was bringing it up as a topical topic. He's like, can we do this? Is it valid?
Note, I've already done this.
And he tells me in exact detail how he went about doing it. Because you just, saying, we dust our feet of this place.
I dust my feet.
That's not how you'd actually do it.
Is it actually a dusting that occurs?
I remember there being a bathtub involved.
Let's give some history, some context. In the history of the church, there are stories of, and I don't know the origin of this. Maybe a listener.
I think it's New Testament.
Oh, it is New Testament.
Just say it with confidence, and it's true.
Okay. Well, what my understanding is that it was popularized. We sort of latched onto it in the early days of the church. This idea that you can sort of curse a person, a people, a group, a town, anyone that sort of wronged you as a missionary doing the Lord's work. You can wash your feet off or dust your feet off of these people, and it's a cursing, and God curses them. And there was a lot of urban legends around stores burning down, and I remember the story that I heard was that a store, a thrift shop in Atlanta had, and of course, insert the name of wherever city you are, had garments in the window. And the missionaries came by and hey, you can't do that. That's, sacred to us. And the guy was like, I don't think so. They're, it's attracting customers, I guess. And so he wouldn't do it, so they dust their feet off. The place burns down. God is his hammer of justice strikes this thrift store.
Because the missionaries set it on fire?
Yeah, pray like everything depends on God, work like everything depends on you, right?
Exactly.
Bring the matches with you. So yeah, I don't know. What were we talking about?
I'd love to hear some success stories of this dusting of the feet.
Yeah, if anyone has done this or know someone who has, I mean a first, you'd actually know the person who did the thing, not a story because we all have those stories, those secondhand. My dad's companion did this.
And is it even real?
Great question.
Is it a valid thing to do?
Is it valid?
Do you have to be authorized by your mission president?
I would love to know that. That's so interesting. See, that's the kind of stuff I feel like as a missionary, you really dive into more than you ever did beforehand. All this deep doctrine, the deep D, as we call it in my mission. And it meant nothing else other than deep doctrine.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, my second transfer, I read Jesus the Christ because my companion...
I thought you were going to say Jesus the Christ Superstar.
My companion would sleep through lunch because he was depressed. after coming off of the reservation in the mountains.
Yeah.
And so I would let him have his NyQuil-filled afternoon naps.
He took NyQuil.
And I would take that opportunity to read as many books of doctrine as I could.
Yeah. And how far into your mission were you when when this was happening?
This was my breaker, my second companion.
Your second companion. So your second companion, after your trainer, is just taking like midday NyQuil naps.
Correct.
And you're just like, well, this is how the mission works, I guess.
Hey, second transfer with him after he'd, shaken the res ghosts from him. He was district leader. He was back up at it.
He's back on top.
It just took him a couple weeks coming down from the res to shake the ghosts.
Oh my goodness. That's interesting. We were kind of thinking about what should we talk about today? And so we've already kind of touched on a few topics. Depression. Depression is the one that I'm kind of the most interested to talk about. And maybe I know that like there's a handful of missionaries who I know I'm sure would love to, or at least I would love their input on this particular subject. Mm-hmm. But it does kind of fit in with what we were talking about last week, which was the MTC, and sort of maybe we thought this week we would venture into our first transfers on the mission. And I think a big part of that is being depressed.
Really?
I think so. I mean, for me, it kind of was, yeah.
Really, right off the bat?
Yeah, it was sad. It was so sad.
I mean, I do often...
When was Sorry, go ahead.
Well, this is, my very first day, I remember the sadness that overcame me.
You're like, really? You felt like that? Oh, wait, no, yeah, first day.
Okay, well, sadness and depression, not the same thing, but
I
remember waking up, putting a part in my hair, because that was a mission rule, where it's like you have to have a part in your hair.
In your hair. Your hair, for the listener who does not know what Lyndon looks like, has, like... Justin Timberlake era, 90s top ramen, sort of like the curl of your hair is, I imagine it would make it difficult to put a part in that hair.
Yeah, it was definitely not a natural thing. So as I realizing I was now conforming to something that was completely not who I was.
Yeah.
Was the first moment of crushing, when you feel your chest about to decompress. That was just the first stone put on top of my chest.
Yeah.
And then I sat down to do my personal study.
Yeah.
Cracked open Preach My Gospel. Looked down at it at my desk.
Yeah.
And was just like, I've made a huge mistake. And I was like, I guess this is my life with a part in my hair for the next 2 years. No. And so then I think I just sat there and cried at my desk silently for 45 minutes.
Oh, no.
But once I got that out of my system.
It only took once. That was going to be my question, is when was your first cry? And because I remember in the MTC, it was day one. I think they were always like, you're going to cry, you're going to break, you're going to crack. Everybody does it. It's biology, bro. And truly, we were all in this. The MTC is this weird place.
They primed you for that.
Yeah, they're like, you will cry.
I got into the MTC and they're like, we're going to have so much fun together. And we did.
And it was great. No, I remember I cried at the... I remember my dad, before I went to the MTC, he was like, if you're going to cry... do it in the shower because your face is already wet. And
such practical advice,
and you could just say that that soap was in your eyes or something because they're going to be all red and puffy, obviously. So yeah, then I get to the MTC and then they're like, you're going to cry, you're going to break, you're going to crack. And I was like, ha, ha, ha. And then I think it was the first night I felt kind of numb, and extremely tired. I was very, very tired. And then I think it was the second night. I just silently cried in my bed. yearning for my days of unemployed teenagedom at home. But but I don't know. So fast forward to like first day of your first transfer on the mission. How many missionaries went out with you to your Tempe, Arizona mission?
I want to say 10.
Okay.
I'd have to like go through my mind, trying to remember all the companionships. It was 8 or 10.
Okay. Did you like your MTC companion?
I did.
You guys got along pretty well.
He was a cool guy.
Yeah. And then you get to Arizona. What time in the day did you leave to go to Arizona? Was it early?
Yeah, it was early.
Yeah.
I remember, well, it's like you fly in to Arizona. It's like an hour-long flight from Salt Lake to Phoenix.
Right, yeah.
And then they house you in some members' houses for the night. Like you get it in, you have like a dinner at a steak center.
Oh.
It's all just a blur, really.
There was no mission home?
You didn't go to the mission home on the very first day. Like you come off the plane. I think we actually went to like the church building beside the mission home.
Oh.
But we didn't actually go in the mission home.
Interesting.
And then then they go bunk us in some member's house.
Oh.
And I remember they put us in a room that had like a twin bed and then like a pull-out bed underneath. Not even a bunk bed. Literally, it was like a little miniature bed that pulled out from underneath it. And there was some Spanish elder that wasn't in my district in the MTC that came out with us. And I was like, yeah, you're sleeping in that.
So there's 10 of you, and you're calling the shots. You're big dog, Elder Naglis.
Well, I think they only sent like...
You're sleeping on the cot.
2 or 4 of us to this one house. We all get separated.
Pedro.
Yeah, I know. And I was a little upset because I got stuck with the Spanish elders. And I was like, I did not spend 3 weeks in the MTC. I don't know these. They're strangers to me.
Who are you?
And it's like, I'm never going to serve with them.
Yeah.
They're my enemy. I was like, sleep in this tiny miniature bed. Yeah. And him being a humble servant of the Lord agreed.
He's like, yes, please, thank you. He already had like a Spanish accent because he had been speaking Spanish for all of 3 weeks at this point. Yeah.
Then the next day you go off to the mission home, meet the mission president, have that transfer meeting, get your trainer.
Right. Yeah, so I got into the mission, and we get picked up by Elder Mickelson and Elder... I forget the other guy's name, but I remember this Elder Mickelson was very talkative, and he was very like, ha-ha, hey guys, welcome to the mission. Ha-ha, how was your day? Ha-ha. And he just kept like sort of... He was a very gregarious person. Meanwhile, all of us, like, we could barely stay awake. We're all just, like, hanging on. And this, I feel like, this was where, like, it felt brainwashy in that we were just sleep deprived and sort of getting slapped around, spun around, and like, all right, go here.
It's all kind of a blur, right?
Yeah. I just remember my mission president was this bigger guy, and he had this really deep voice, and he was like, Elder Cooper, how are you? And so we get to the mission home. We stayed at the mission home. There were bunk beds in the basement, and it was like a mansion. It was a big, nice house. And we get there, and we're sort of waiting downstairs. The assistants are talking to us. And one by one, we would go upstairs and we would talk to the mission president in his office. And I think it was the night before or something, or a few nights before, I had been making fun of my MTC teacher. He had said something about how he is like very anal as a missionary. He was kind of a Nazi. And so the joke was like, hey, everybody, I'm a bit of a Nazi. And then, like, that he had a swastika on his, like, that he was like a real Nazi. That was the joke that I was making about him at the MTC.
Oh, I was going to say, that's a very inappropriate joke for an
No,
MTC teacher.
he didn't say that. I was kind of, like, joking about it to everybody. And so, like, there was like 10 or 15 cameras and a big group of people listening to me do this impression of our MTC teacher. and calling him a Nazi on camera. Like, I'm sure to this day there are still somebody's got some footage of that. So I felt bad about that. I felt guilty. I was used to confessing things to my ecclesiastical leaders by this point, and so as soon as I get to the mission, I go up and I talk to my mission president, and and he's just like, because I think part of what he's there to do is to weed out people who had carried some transgressions with them up to that point, to sort of lean on the missionaries. And he's like, "Is there anything you'd like to tell me?" And I was like, I made fun of my MTC teacher. I called him a Nazi. Oh, please forgive me. And I think he was just like, "Very good, Elder, very good. Always tell President." And so I think he knew I would always be a good boy. So then we like go to sleep, and then the next day, again, we're so tired. I just remember being so tired for like this whole like 6-week period as missionaries. And the next day we go to the church, and we have to watch a video about driving. Did you ever have to watch this?
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, you had to watch the video, and then you could go in and join everybody else where the transfer meeting was happening. And so I just remember like almost falling asleep in this video, and then we get to the meeting, and I walk in right as they're saying, they're singing "If You Could Hide a Kolob." And this was one of the traditions in our mission, is that they would always sing "If You Could Hide a Kolob." And it was like 120 missionaries, 120, probably at this point, because it was pre-surge, it was probably like 110 elders and then 10 sisters, all singing so loudly and with so much gusto "If You Could Hide a Kolob." And honestly, it was one of the most like powerful experiences of my life, hearing a song. And then we go in.
I had the opposite experience.
Let's hear it.
Well,
in regard to like the singing.
Well, like, because we had a tradition as well.
Yeah.
Every transfer meeting, when every single mission. Did you do that? Did you have a transfer meeting where like everybody met up to do the transfers?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So we did as well. And everyone loved it, right? Because everyone got together.
Mm-hmm.
The whole mission got together at least once a transfer.
Right.
Well, unless missionaries weren't being transferred, but that's...
Or they were like very far away. And
yeah, like
waste time and gas to go.
Yuma or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the tradition at transfer meetings is to sing... I've blocked it from my memory. Okay. Called to Serve.
Some piece of crap song.
Some song that gives me PTSD every time I hear it.
Called to Serve.
Called to Serve. But they have their own third verse that is unique.
No.
That is unique to the Tempe, Arizona mission.
Oh no!
And like little interlude. I don't know what it's called.
Yeah.
Like in between, they just yell things. They've added stuff to the song.
Yeah, we would do it like onward,
Yeah,
pressing onward. Yeah.
And I was sitting there, and I'm just like, this is the worst.
I hate this.
and like how enthusiastic everyone was about it.
Yeah.
And I realized I'm just like, this is not for me.
You just so quickly were just like, I don't want anything to do with this.
Yeah.
You just weren't bitten by the mission spirit at that point.
Do I still every now and then find myself singing along to that third verse of Call to Serve? Yeah.
Is it great and catchy? Yeah.
Yeah.
Do I love it? Yeah.
But I was the opposite of your.
You had a bad first song tradition experience.
I've learned to appreciate it now.
Yeah. We used to sing that at the end of lunches at like zone conferences.
If You Could Hide a Kolob every time.
No. What's it called? Call to Serve.
Oh.
And at the end, so it'd be like, call to serve our King. Thanks for lunch. And so now every single time in church when we sing it, I just have to quietly whisper, thanks for lunch. And the people around me are like, what? What is he? Why is he? What's wrong with him?
We would sing Love One Another.
For lunch?
Yeah, to thank the people.
To thank them.
For lunch. And they would all get teary-eyed because they were all like people that had sons on missions in Paraguay or something.
Otherwise, why would they be helping the missionaries?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, except it was Arizona, and the members loved us beyond reason.
Yeah, it was unreasonable how much they loved you. Okay, so so we're in. They announced like, okay, Elder so and so, you're going with Elder so and so, and then the two missionaries would stand up, and there's always like this awkward. And the mission president was the person announcing these new companionships, and there was always like this kind of awkward, especially with like. It was either the two missionaries knew each other very well, and they were like, "Oh yeah," and everybody cheered for their favorite missionaries, or it was like, "Elder so and so and Elder so and so, you are now companions," and then they would look at each other, and then just give like a little salute, or you could see that it was they were just visibly displeased with the decision, and it was like, oh,
they didn't. You didn't have at transfer meeting, they filled the right side of the pews and the left side. And when they called you up, you stood up. And then, like, you had to run to each other, give them a big hug, and then sit in the middle.
That was your mission?
That was ours.
Oh, no. We just were all lumped in the center.
Right, because that's one thing I was prepared for. My brother-in-law was like, you're going to be a missionary. You've probably never hugged another dude your entire life. And I was like, correct. And he's like, the majority of your time as a missionary is going to be hugging other men.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if you like it or not, just accept it.
Yeah.
So I was prepared, right? When they announced my trainer, I just stood up and I knew I was going over to give him a big old bear hug.
Were you like bigger than your companion?
They're about the same size.
Okay.
I was a little taller than him.
Yeah. I had two, well, no, I had several companions who were like bigger than me, like as tall or taller than me.
How's that possible? You're a large statured man.
Yeah, I'm 6'4", and on the mission, I think I was around 180-ish pounds. And, no, but I had like all these companions who like were bigger than me or stronger than me. And they would like, the tradition was they would like, for one companion, he would like, we would hug, he would pick me up, hold me in his arms a little bit, just gently caress me. No, he would just pick me up and then put me down. And that was our little tradition. We were, yeah. I think it helped us a lot. We'll just say that.
We did have one missionary who came straight out of the Marines,
Oh.
and he refused to hug his companion.
Jeez.
Would straight up deny him. I don't remember how many transfers it took. Too many, to be honest. But he finally gave his companion a hug at transfer meeting. I think, no, it was when he trained. When he finally became a trainer.
A father.
And he got his son.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, he's going to hug him. He's got to hug him. And he did. And like the whole mission just like erupts and cheers. The cold-hearted Marine.
For the uninitiated, on the mission, whenever you train a missionary, whenever you're somebody's first companion, you're their trainer. And colloquially, you're referred to as their father, and they are your son. Or mother-daughter, also, for the sisters. And so...
And then, of course, there's uncles and brothers.
Uncles and brothers. The mission family, if you're lucky... And I was lucky because I had like a very large mission family by the end of it.
A rich ancestry.
I did. I had a rich ancestry. I trained I trained 2 missionaries. And from that, I had much posterity flow from it.
The lineage.
The lineage continued. The blessings of Abraham were on us.
That was like a legitimate thing, like people being able to trace back like lines of, and like the longer it was, the better.
Yeah.
And there was like training lineages that like went back to like the 70s or something. But then they would train like a dud.
Yeah.
And it's like, this missionary is never going to train. And like that bloodline would die and like people would shed tears.
That is kind of sad. Yeah. Okay. So, we get our, so for me, I got my companion, the meeting ended. And I'm still like in a blur, right? I got my bags and everything, and I'm just like, oh. My first companion, his name is Elder Mulestein. Maybe the nicest guy. He was like dual parts paternal and maternal at the same time. Like he took care of me. He was such a nice guy. He was so kind and loving. Kind of exactly probably what I needed for the first companion. I just remember, like, we go out to this family, the Whitehursts, and this is, like, the greatest introduction to a Georgia resident I could have had. He was Georgia personified. He's just this white-haired old man, and he'd be like, Elder Cooper, how are you? I'm Mr. Brother Whitehurst. And he, like, had the best accent in the world. And he's like, let me pick up your bags, put them in the back. And he was just so, like, Southern gentleman. He was so great.
Did he have, like, peach sweet tea ready to go as well?
No kidding, he always had a can of Dr. Pepper in a glass with ice on him at all times. Whenever he had the can, the glass, and the ice. And so he'd be, like, driving down the road. He'd be like, you know, popping his Dr. Pepper, and he'd be like, if it don't keep me out of the temple, it's fine for me to drink. And then he'd, like, you know, pour it into his glass. As he's driving, he was a man of incredible talents.
I already, just hearing that story, I love this guy.
I loved him too. And then, like, I think we got there and he was, like, testing out this AR-15 rifle that he had, you know, at his house.
Of course.
I remember, like, I was just, like, standing there kind of dumbfounded. People just sort of walking around, and my companion, like, looks at me and he's like, oh, Elder Cooper, you got a spider on your face. And I was like, what? And he reaches up and grabs, like, the biggest daddy long legs spider I've ever seen. It was just, like, sitting on my face. And so I was like, welcome to Georgia. Spiders just rest on your face. And then we get there and we get settled into our apartment. We kind of meet the rest of the district. And then the sadness overcame me.
And the sadness.
The sadness came. Tell me about, like, from the church to your first apartment, or where did you stay? Where was your first place?
Well, let me tell you. I should probably get a little background on my trainer.
Yeah.
They called him Tuck and Roll Knowles.
Yeah.
Because when he was getting trained, he got into a car with his trainer, and he was playing music that, because there was, like, the standard approved music list for like every mission, and then your mission president would add music that he approved.
Yeah.
And so this was music that was not on the standard approved mission list, which of course he had memorized. And so as he's playing it, he's like, is this music approved? And his companion's like, yeah, don't worry about it. His trainer.
Yeah.
And he didn't believe him. And so while the car was going 35 miles per hour, he jumped out of the car. He duck and rolled out of the car because he could not stand be in a car that was potentially playing unapproved music.
Is that true?
Yes.
That's a true story.
That is a true story. And so, well, and then further background, he's like an army kid.
Yeah.
Like, while he was my companion, he was trying to get into West Point.
Okay.
Which, if you don't know, is the most prestigious school in the U.S. of A. Also, it's the Army University, and those who graduate are like captains or something when they graduate.
Yeah.
And so, and he was like a marathon runner. He was a very intense man. But he failed the physical because apparently he had asthma, even though he could breathe like a champion and run marathons.
Yeah.
And so then he got accepted into Annapolis, which is the Marine version.
Right.
But he was set on going to the Army. So he leveraged the fact that he got accepted into Annapolis to get into West Point.
Huh.
So that when he got home, he could get into West Point. So a very serious dude. But he obviously, after the tuck and roll incident, which is where he got his nickname.
He had tucked and rolled before. He knew what he was doing in regards to tucking and rolling.
The mission president was just like, you need to chill.
You're insane.
You need to turn it down a lot.
Yeah.
And so luckily by the time he trained me, he was not the same intensity.
He was a slob by the time he trained.
Still an intense dude.
Still intense.
And I think, so he was the district leader out in West Mesa.
Yeah.
And I think it's because you'd need like an army captain out there. It was like Fallujah of Mesa.
It was Fallujah.
So like you go to your mission home, which was like a mansion. Our mission home was literally just like a church building.
Right.
Just like there's a chapel, a church building, and that was like the mission home.
Yeah.
mission office, really. It wasn't even a home.
Yeah.
And then we just go out to, and I've never seen the ghetto.
No. You're from Olds, Alberta.
I'm a country bumpkin.
All they have in Olds are just nice parcels of land with nice homes. I assume there's got to be some less nice homes on some of those parcels.
I wouldn't know.
You're like, no, I don't know. I've never saw anything other than what I lived in.
So I've never been to the ghetto.
Yeah.
And this West Mesa, it's hood.
Yeah.
I am not prepared for this. There's just an apartment. We're in like an ocean of apartment complexes.
You lived in the ghetto.
Yeah.
Okay. Or the hood.
And my trainer was like so proud. I don't even remember the number. He's like, there's 1,500 apartment complexes in this area. Like, it's like, there's 1 million people in this area that just live in apartments.
Wow.
And every night the police helicopter was out. Every night, shining its light down on us. Gunshots, murders, cockroaches in the apartment.
And you're just falling asleep to the sounds of death and destruction and helicopter.
Yeah. Someone in the apartment complex next to us did get raped and knifed while I was living there.
Wow.
So that was my first area. Loved it. It blowed. My mind was blown because we get there.
Yeah.
And this is before, your first personal study. It's like the day you flew in.
Yes.
But you got to go out and do missionary work. And it occurred to me, I was like, I have no idea what missionaries do. It's like my dad didn't go on a mission. Everyone else was just it's like, you got to go preach the gospel. Yeah. I was like, what does that look like for 16 hours a day?
Yeah.
So my companion's like, we got 90 minutes before our dinner appointment. Let's go knock some doors. I was like, oh, this is what we do. I was like, we're just going to go knock on people's doors, unannounced, uninvited. Like, they're not ready for us.
Yeah, no. Unwanted.
We're just looking for them.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is what life is for 2 years. And I was like, this is madness. I was like, this is going to be interesting.
I thought that when we got to the mission, because we received, I don't remember when we received this, but we received like a package that was essentially like a training manual that our mission president had crafted that acted as like the first, X number of days on your mission. I believe it was your first transfer, or no, it was the first 3 weeks or something like that. You just do all this training stuff. And so I was under the impression that we wouldn't even talk to people for another 3 weeks. And so I get with my companion, and he's like, yes, so we'll get to the apartment and we'll put your stuff in there. And then we got a lesson right away. And I was like, what? We got to talk to people? I thought there was 3 weeks of training. And you're like, yeah, this is all training. It's all the training. And so, yeah, I get there. My first lesson, we live very close to the hood. I was in Griffin, Georgia. And Griffin, Georgia has, it's like half and half. Like a lot of the places I was in, I was called to the Georgia-Atlanta mission. I never actually served in Atlanta. I was way too white. So they would send all the black missionaries to Atlanta proper, and all the white missionaries were in these sort of more country towns around Atlanta.
The suburbs of Atlanta?
Yeah, you could call them that. I mean, some of these places were pretty far out there. But so this place that we were going, I forget what it was called. There were so many. I would love to go back and look up what this street was called, but I think we even called it Hood Street. But it had that was clever because of what the actual name was. I think it was like
Hood Street,
Hart Street or something. We're like, well, come on down to Hood Street. And truly, this was the poorest neighborhood that I had ever seen in my life up to that point. Very nice people, but I did not know what the guy that we were teaching. His name was Chad. I did not know what he was saying at first. There's something about the Southern accent that it's very I think the difficulty is in the pace of what they're saying. They talk extremely fast, and it's got the drawl to it. So I think the slowness I can listen to, but But when they're talking about this and they're talking about that, and we went down the store, and there's little words like you miss, and so I'm just like, he would like say something, like I barely knew how to teach anything, and I think I taught like one principle from one lesson, but I taught it, and so I asked like a little question, and I was like, do you like families or something? And he's like, yeah, like families going to go to family, like going to new, and
it's like Boomhauer from King of the Hill.
Truly, I did not know what he said, and I think what I did is I was just like kind of looking at him, and then I slowly looked at my companion, and he's like, just yeah, you like pie, right, or whatever, whatever he said. So that was very interesting, but it was cool. It was like a nice little, baptism by fire, like just jump right in the deep end. You got a lesson first thing. And then, actually the thing about it, I feel like the real sadness came in the second transfer. Cause the first transfer is like, everything's very fun and it's exciting. You're away from home, and I have this very maternal, paternal trainer who's very interested in my well-being. And we had a baptism. Like 3 people got baptized my first weekend. Like I got there on the Thursday or whatever. By Saturday and Sunday, 3 baptisms. Boom, just walked right into it. So
I also had a baptism on my first weekend. I'm like, I'm killing it.
Yeah, yeah.
You did absolutely nothing, but you're like killing it.
I'm doing awesome. I'm a great missionary. But yeah, so I don't know. So. I just remember, and this is getting into second transfer a little bit, but I don't know. I was a very like introspective missionary. Like so much of my mission was just like inside of my own heart, journaling and just crying out to God all the time about like it felt like a crisis for 2 years of like, God, I just feel like I'm not doing this right, and oh Lord. And
well, it's because you weren't.
I wasn't. No, absolutely not. And I just remember this one moment, second transfer. My second companion was much less maternal. He was more like a brother. He was like a big brother you'd never met before, and you were gonna live with your brother now. And he was just like, he was a good missionary, and he was just like, let's get down to business. And we can talk more about, transfer 2 maybe next time. But yeah, I just remember this moment. We didn't get along very well. He was very like, he was kind of an abrasive missionary, I thought at first. And we just kind of weren't getting along. We didn't click right away. And we get home one day, and I'm just like sitting at my desk, and I had bought these salsa chips from the store, and this V8 Splash sort of vegetable fruit juice, and I was just like sitting and staring at the wall at my desk, eating these chips, drinking this juice, like at the end of the day, and just thinking, I've made a huge mistake. This is awful. So yeah, I don't know. So to me, it sounds like the sadness hit you a little bit, kind of right away. But did you have a happy first transfer?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, we also had like the 3-week training manual that you speak of.
Yeah,
and I think your trainer was supposed to go. My trainer said you're supposed to have companionship study and kind of go over that, and then you'd have a training hour. Mm-hmm. But our first companionship study, he just sat me down and was like, teach me the first lesson. And I did. I successfully taught him the first lesson on my first day. And he said, you're years ahead of most missionaries. And so he's like, we're not doing training hour. We're just going out and working. So I don't really know what was in that training schedule.
You were too good.
He's just like, you know what you're doing. You don't need this. And I was like, are you sure? But I assume I was okay.
I would have loved to have known you back then as that person. I feel like you've aged 20 years since your mission. We've been home for like 10 years now, but like to see that...
He's 8 years. Not
or
even
8. You're right.
Not
No,
even
no.
8.
No, it's 2008.
10 years when we started.
2 years when we started. We've been home for 8.
Yeah. Started 10 years
We
ago.
started 10 years ago. That's crazy. That's nuts.
I have aged about 20 years since.
You just from the photo, and listeners can go on our Instagram, The Mission Stories Podcast, and look at young Lyndon.
That's about as youthful as I get right there.
Yeah, he's adorable. I want to wrap him up in swaddling clothes and lay him down for a nap or something.
But I feel like personality-wise, it's probably just the same.
Really?
Basically the same.
Oh, I would love to see that.
If anything, now I just have more knowledge.
Yeah.
The exact same amount of wisdom.
Yeah.
Wisdom has not increased since I was 19.
Still taking strong stances on controversial topics, even back then. Actually, for sure, I took very strong positions on controversial topics as a missionary. I feel like it's your job to do that.
That is 100% part of the job description.
Just take a strong stance and upset people.
Unapologetic stances.
Yeah. Yeah, people were always like, so you're saying that your church is the only true church on the earth? And I would proudly say, yeah. Come and join it, pal. Come join the party. You're invited.
It's like, we're telling you about it. You're welcome.
Yeah. You're damned if you do nothing about it, by the way.
I mean, what was your first kind of Bible bash or not competitive? You know,
Yeah, there's someone who is like looking to...
the first time someone was like, hey, you.
You know what's interesting? Our big rivals on the mission were the Jehovah's Witnesses. They were... I mean, I feel like they're the only other church that like sends people out to proselyte, to go from door to door.
I believe so, yeah.
And so, there's a lot of...
Only on Saturday.
Is
Casuals.
Yeah, and they don't even leave their home for 2 years. Crazy. I remember we were at lunch one day in our apartment, first transfer, and gosh, there's a lot about that first transfer. But we're at lunch, and we hear a knock on the door, and we go to the door, and it's Jehovah's Witnesses. Mm-hmm. And we're just like...
Every missionary's dream, I think.
Yeah. We're just like, well, this is funny. And so we're like, what do we do? Let's open the door. Let's act real cool, and let's be really cool and funny. And so we like open the door. We got our name tags on. We're like, hello. And it was just a silly little situation, Jehovah's Witnesses knocking on the Mormon's door. How funny. That's as far as it went.
As far as it went.
Yeah. They were just like, it was just, there was sort of like this quiet acknowledgement between the two of us, like, oh, hello.
Just, an unstoppable force meets an unmovable object kind of thing.
Yeah. Just like, I don't think anybody's going to be convinced of anything here. Well, let's just move along.
Yeah, I remember my first one is we're out roaming around the apartment complexes on our bikes.
Yeah.
And some guy's like, hey, why don't you wear crosses? And I, if it was up to me to answer that question, junior companion, 3 days into his mission, I'd be like, I don't know, I don't care.
Yeah.
But then I watch as my trainer gets into a heated discussion. He's just like, if Jesus was killed with a gun, would you wear a gun around your neck? And this guy's just like, yeah, I would.
I also wear a gun around my neck. A real one.
Yeah, where they go into like, we believe in the resurrected Christ, not the dead one.
Right.
And we don't focus on the instrument that was used to kill him.
Yeah.
He's like, it's a symbol of Christ. And it's like, good points on both ends.
Yeah.
But that's just when I lost it and realized how ridiculous it was when my trainer's just like, if he was shot, would you wear a gun? And the guy, so determined to win an argument, was like, yes, I would.
100%. Yeah, I'm thinking of like all the times I've encountered military people on my mission now, and it's a really those are some of my favorite stories. We should have like a whole separate podcast for that. Or not a pod, but an episode. Start a whole new podcast. Military people on my mission. But yeah, I don't know. The big bashes. My first one, I think, because my trainer was not. He did not want to get into it really with people. So we didn't really bash all that much. It was when I trained. That's when the bashing began. I really enjoyed it. It was a fun time. And it like makes you study more, you know, like if you have a purpose to study,
it's a good exercise.
Yeah. It's like, you just don't want to be caught off guard again. If somebody like catches you with like a verse and a passage, you got to know your passages.
Just recently, one of our mutual friends got into it with some preacher in a Tim Hortons. And she was all like, I just wish I had more scriptures ready to go.
Yeah. I
was like, oh yeah, isn't it exciting?
Oh, the blood just gets pumping. You feel that adrenaline. Feels good.
I was like, oh yeah. I was like, you got to go study your scripts. Not study the scripts. You got to go study the verses you can use to combat people.
Yeah. Just learn the references.
And then she quickly realized, she's like, this wouldn't convince anyone of anything.
No.
And I was like, now you've ruined the fun before it's even began.
I don't know though. Like I feel if you're willing, because that's the funny thing about, you can only Bible bash, and I think I was lucky in this regard serving in Georgia in the Bible Belt, in that everybody believed in God and in Jesus. Like that was just sort of this everybody agreed to it.
I think that's just America in general.
I don't know. I feel probably like the coasts seem to be less interested in religion.
That's true.
Except for,
Florida.
There's like a lot of Catholics, I feel, on the West Coast. Probably the East. It's probably Catholic on both sides of the states, and then Protestant all through the center. Christian.
I've seen the little heat map of religious demographics.
Yeah.
Before.
What was the main one? What was the big one?
Well, the big takeaway was this bright red Mormon spot in Utah and Idaho.
Yeah. Was it like a Mormon specific one?
No, well, they took like the top 5 denominations and mapped them throughout the U.S. And so, interestingly enough, Mormons makes the top of the list in America.
Right.
So they were on the little map.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember like Northeast, I think, is where you'll find like Catholics.
Right. Yeah. Boston, New York. I'm a non-practicing Catholic. Yeah, somebody told me that like the Bible Belt means that everybody has a Bible, but like nobody knows the Bible.
Bible illiteracy is a major problem among Protestants.
Yeah, I remember on my mission, like we had this one scripture that we would always share in the Old Testament. It was Jeremiah 1:5, and you
want me to read that for you?
Yeah, you have it right.
And
just read it normally, what it's supposed to be.
Okay, so it says, "Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee, and before thou camest forth out of the womb, I sanctified thee, and I ordained thee a prophet unto the nations."
So we're trying to teach people that, like, yeah, pre-earth life, before he was born. But I've already told Lyndon the word to replace, and this would always happen every time we would do this. This would happen. They would screw up this word.
You gotta read me in like you're a missionary.
Okay, all right. We're gonna role play here. This is Elder Cooper. Hi, what's your name? What should we call you? Cletus.
Cletus.
Hey, Cletus. So if you could just read, God, this scripture tells us about this. The main idea in this scripture is that God loves us and that we were alive before we were born.
Okay.
All right.
Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee, and before thou camest forth out of the womb, I sacrificed thee, and I ordained thee a prophet unto the nations.
Okay, so no, it's sanctify. So they would always say sacrifice instead of sanctify, and
surely, just in context, they must catch that.
No, absolutely not. People, I don't know. It's a tough word. I don't know. It happened a lot, though. It happened enough where I had to be ready to be like, nah, this word is sanctify, not sacrifice.
It's just kind of illiteracy in general.
Yeah, a little bit. So yeah, and it very much changes the meaning, of the verse when you talk about sacrificing a baby in the womb.
It very much does.
Yeah. So, all right, Lyndon. I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna close up shop here.
Next week on the podcast.
Yeah.
Abortions in the Old Testament.
Topical topics, circa 485 BC.
Jeremiah, pro-choice. Depending on how you read it.
Yeah, we read it all sorts of ways. Yeah, I don't know. Anything else we want to talk about?
I think we've said it.
We've said it all. We've said enough. Anyway, we've upset how many people? Countless. Hopefully we can reach enough people to upset countless numbers of people. That would be
dozens.
That's our real goal here. Thanks everybody for tuning in. You can always reach us at our email, themissionstoriespodcast@gmail.com. Our Instagram, The Mission Stories Podcast. Slide into our DMs there. Please rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes podcasts and on SoundCloud. I think you can
subscribe.
You can like things, I know. Or if you want to reach out to us, you can just call Lyndon. He's our PR man, and a wonderful PR man he is. Thank you, Lyndon.
Always a pleasure.
Always a pledge. Any last words? That's my new thing now.
Goodbye, dear listeners.
Goodbye, and thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. Bye.